Stephen Hawking, astrophysicist and arguably one of the smartest people on the planet, warned us about the possibility of aliens from outer space.
Hawking says that if extraterrestrials visit us, the outcome might be similar to when Columbus landed in America. In other words, it didn't turn out too well for Native Americans.
Once you look, it grabs hold.
Well, the news related to aliens has increased like never before. Some might be lies, but each truth and lies are pointing to the fact that somebody wants us to believe in them. Why is that? Are we looking at a false flag invasion? Scare tactics to control the people? Project Bluebeam, New World Order conspiracy? Or are there really aliens out there about to make an arrival? It seems endless right now in all the news that we see. We've got the Goldilocks planet capable of holding life near Earth, a new Earth. We have the Disclosure Conference that just came out, the UN nukes and UFOs seeking the anti-universe, Vatican holding an ET conference, Reverend Funes talking about baptizing ETs, and the Rothschilds gather with NASA to discuss life in the cosmos. Oh, and watch your carbon footprint or you might explode. 1010 coming up tomorrow. All kinds of interesting things going on planet Earth right now, and amazingly, right along with the agenda that we feel is unfolding in some sort of New World Order script, an occult extraterrestrial agenda that is being played out on the masses. Now, what are we to think when we start to see the barrage of all these news reports? Aliens attacking our nuclear programs, conferences, UN meetings, Royal Society gatherings to talk about extraterrestrial life. We add this to all the previous stuff where we had, well, Hillary Clinton acknowledging the galactic government. We have Hillary Clinton showing up with Lawrence Rockefeller with the book, Are We Alone by Paul Davies. We have Buzz Aldrin coming out on all of these different shows talking about monoliths on the moon of Mars. Meanwhile, NASA's discussing their 2013 trip to Mars, while SpaceX's Elon Musk wants to retire on Mars. And pretty soon, the chief of NASA will be meeting with the Chinese on interrelationships into space travel. We have a lot going on planet Earth and a lot of questions to answer. My God, it seems that we have entered this space and time where, well, I knew it would happen. The real world caught up with the Freeman Perspective. We're in the place now where I had led myself to believe we would be, and yet everything is different than I had anticipated. It all seems like a show to me, a charade, a falsity, none of which I can believe, none of which I can follow. And yet I've been guided through this extraterrestrial realm with my own personal experiences from childhood on up into my adulthood. I've seen UFOs. I've seen massive V-shaped craft. And amazingly, at that point, I did not think it was extraterrestrial. But yet we have the governor of Arizona, Fife Symington, ex-governor now, saying that if you had seen that V-shaped craft, you would have known it was otherworldly. I had quite the opposite reaction. What's going on right now? We're going to cover a lot of details today, get to this extraterrestrial hypothesis, and see where it leads us. Will aliens arrive on 10/13? Well, it's been 1 year since we bombed the moon. Do you remember this $79 million dud, the lacrosse, that was impacted into the moon? And what came of this? Was it remembered? Was it thought about? I think about the fact that we were tracking CERN so heavily. We were tracking the bombing of the moon so heavily. And yet, when it came down to the fruition of this of these operations, we find nothing. There's nothing coming from either side. We find some anomalous things within our particle universe from CERN, and they got a new mural just recently. But what about bombing the moon? Where's the data? Where's the purpose? What was that money wasted for? Especially when we already knew that the Chandrayaan-1 had been up there, discovered water. We knew that the Kaguya of the Japanese probe had already crashed into the moon. And then here's America crashing their rocket straight into the moon. What was the purpose? Well, what if life on planet Earth is so far beyond what we actually think has been going on while we exist in a zoo mentality and an extraterrestrial reality has been existing around us all along? This is a question that needs to be asked as we start to discover new things in the universe, start to realize that there is absolute potential for life in the universe. One of the lead stories coming out right now is the Goldilocks planet. They found a planet that was an Earth-like planet, discovered after more than a decade of observations using the Keck Observatory in Hawaii. The astronomers say that this is a potentially habitable planet and is one that could sustain life. Although they have not determined whether there are oceans on board, it seems that it's in perfect zone to have such. This planet orbits a dwarf star they call Geis 581. And the planet itself, Geis 581G. Saying that this is a Goldilocks planet, one that is just a find that opens the potential that there would be many other planets habitable in our galaxy and galaxies beyond. That life actually would be the norm. Now, you probably wouldn't want to live on Geis 581G because, well, it's tidal locked, and so you either have all daylight or all night. And also the pressures there, being that it's about 3 times the size of planet Earth, actually would make it very hard to get up. They say you wouldn't exactly become a puddle, but you wouldn't really enjoy your time there either. But perhaps they need to throw a moon in around this planet and cause it to start to orbit, to rotate, as perhaps things have happened on planet Earth in this way. What do we think about life in the universe? What do we think about the idea of extraterrestrials visiting planet Earth? And what would be a potential conspiracy theory to go along with an alien arrival? Now, we've just had the fourth kind. We've had V come out, and then recently the event. They're really pushing this extraterrestrial connection and then really pushing fear to come with it. Certainly in the fourth kind, they brought in the whole Sumerian connection. They brought in the owl of Bohemian Grove or even esoteric arts. And they made you believe this was real. Many people left the fourth kind thinking that it was based on a real story. Most didn't wait till the credits to see that they were showing the actors and actresses playing these roles, but taking away the idea that this had actually happened and the idea of possession by extraterrestrials. So we see this being proposed and brought forth through most of the sci-fi genre that we have on extraterrestrials. Isn't it funny if you're an SG-1 fan, if you're into watching Stargate, and we realize that every other planet in the civilization, other than all speaking English, but every other planet that they visit, they all know there's ETs. They all know they're aliens. And they're like, yes, we come from planet Earth. And yet none of the Earthlings are aware of aliens whatsoever. Now, you might notice if you get to the end of the credits on SG-1 that it's in connection with the Department of Defense. That this whole operation of SG-1, the movie, the film, the TV show, is all sponsored by the Department of Defense. Although the show itself comes from Canada. And when we start to see that they're programming this idea of infestation in a way of aliens. So the aliens actually are a parasite. They are a reptilian sort of snake-type being that are put into human hosts. Now, this is pretty similar to Chris Carter's Alien from the X-Files. And isn't it curious that Chris Carter's production company would be 1013? And in that same storyline, as we get to the end of the X-Files, the aliens are some sort of oil-type being that infest your body, take it over, and grow an alien inside of you. We could see this in the same similar setup with Disney and their Kane Chronicles and the hosting of God forms inside of children. This seems to be a common theme. Now, our alien story has gone through numerous themes. When we got the first alien contacts, back in the early days of alien contact, all the aliens were from Venus, and they were trying to tell humanity to save planet Earth, but there was no time left. This progressed into the abduction scenario. So around the 1940s, we have new radar technologies going into play, and suddenly UFOs crashing out of the sky. Most of those connected with this tend to believe that the radar were the cause of the malfunctions within the flying saucers, which then were supposedly captured. Now, I don't know if you went and watched the disclosure conference that was just put out by the National Press Conference. How many of these have I watched? Lots. Honestly, I think I've read nearly every UFO abduction type book, Blue Book, any of the experiencers, and I've watched an amazing amount of hours of whistleblowing testimony. It's boring. It is so boring, right? You sit there and you listen to these guys, and they're ex-military, they're FFA officials, they're pilots, they're engineers, they're police officers, and they're telling you about craft that took off at 2,000 miles an hour, hovered, went around, left, nothing too much, lights in the sky. Tales of abductions. We have confirmed tales of abductions where a police officer outside of a building witnesses a UFO approaching a many-storied apartment building and removing a lady from inside who had also reported the incident herself. We find that there are millions of abduction stories, millions of people believing that they have been taken by aliens and been tested upon. Now, when we look at this synopsis, this scenario, as we try to understand now, if we have millions of people being abducted regularly, and the belief is that they are taken through familial lines, so if you take generations of families up into these craft, and we believe that all of these cattle mutilations are real. Thousands, tens of thousands of cattle mutilated with cauterized incisions on their body that show no signs of blood seepage. Interesting parts of the body taken.